Hello, everyone. It is hour number 17 of my 24 in 24 for Sam's challenge, where every hour on the hour for 24 hours, today, 24th of July, so 247 for those of us in the UK time zone, where I'm raising funds for my Samaritans branch, but also to raise visibility of what we do. So we are there for our callers who are in crisis 24/7. And what I want to do is I want to create a space for having conversations about things that matter. I think we spend a lot of time going about our lives, parenting, school, work, and so on and so forth. And we don't give ourselves time to have like these, conversations that really matter. And I started this fundraising challenge from midnight. So I've had already so many conversations with people that I have known, but where they shared such deep stories of the challenges that they've gone through that you know, I wouldn't have known otherwise. So on this session, I have one of my favorite women architect, Vicki. She's here to share her story of some of the things that she's been going through. Hi, Vicki.
Hi, it's so nice to be with you and so amazing what you're doing today. I've been watching some of the talks on the side, and yeah, it's just such great content that you've been going through.
Oh, I think it's just people's stories that they never get a chance to talk about, especially those um, tougher times.
Yes.
In it. I think what I've gathered was a lot of people don't share because everyone's busy. Why would they want to hear my story? And I don't want to burden other people, but everyone's feeling the same way. And so you feel very alone in the weight that we carry. So I have been, I think I'm the one who's feeling very fortunate to be able to hear all these stories. And right now I'm going to hear yours. Tell me more.
Yeah. And it's so validating seeing somebody else going through the same things you are. So, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, my story. I know I had submitted around actually like a very specific point in time in my life. And when we had first started talking about the session, and really using learning as a coping mechanism, essentially. And I was going through some photos earlier to have some photos as like a backup or like a little prop to have during the session. And I realized that something about myself that I've been doing this the entire time, all through all of my three kids, all of my difficult moments. And you don't realize until you start to look back on it.
Hmm.
So,
Tell me more.
yeah. So, I way back in the day, I don't know if everybody knows this, maybe some people do, was an English teacher. So I was working. I came through a very long series of changes and transitions throughout my life. I started as a bio major in university, decided that I didn't want to go into medicine, went into French, moved into France, and then realized I couldn't teach the French, which should be obvious, but sometimes you need to have your feet on the ground to realize that. So I started to teach English because I can teach the French English. And then I met my husband and wanted to stay in France and was looking for a job after my contract had been up and started to teach English online. So I know that there's many people out there who do that just to have the flexibility to be able to work from anywhere, to find a job wherever they're working currently. I live in the middle of nowhere in France. I have a medium-sized city near me, but not a lot of job opportunities out there. So you have to be a little bit of flexible with what you're looking for. And my flexibility was definitely felt in the salary. English teachers online in a virtual space earn next to nothing. And that had a really big impact on my decision to transition into Salesforce at the time. So, yeah, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but
Oh, carry on. I
you've
mean,
been talking all day though, so I'll keep going. So, yeah, my transition into Salesforce started at a moment that I don't talk about very often. I've talked about it, I think, at one point at one of the only Dreamforce I ever did. I talked about my story transitioning, but actually, my husband had a very scary moment in our life where he came down with heart arrhythmia. And if anybody has this or has experienced it with a friend, a loved one, it's when your heart has extra beats or skips a beat. And it has such a huge impact on your physical person. It's a very scary moment because anything can happen at that point in time. There can be blood clots, there can be side effects coming from it. There was a very heavy treatment to try to restart and like rejig everything through medicine. And then even after that, there's a period where they're slow. Everything's slowed down. Your entire body is slow. It takes you a while to do anything, even talking, thinking, walking down the streets, doing your day to day task. Everything slows down until you get back up on your feet again. So that happens for a couple of months.
Vicky, so quick question. So when you say arrhythmia, is not just skip a beat today. It's like
No,
consistent,
ongoing.
irregular.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And it's either treated through medicine or it's treated through pacemakers. So we're at the point where we don't need pacemaker yet, but it can come back at any point in time, which is always just a little bit of added stress. If anybody is ever around me and has an episode, I always have heart arrhythmia medicine in my wallet to be able to pick out somebody back up. So yeah, if you if you ever have that experience and you're around me, I'm your person.
Wow. Okay.
But that also triggered the fact that I was being paid next to nothing. I was in a manager position at that point, but still at a very low salary level. And I know I think we don't talk about salaries enough, especially women in tech. I was capped at $16 an hour and was told I was never going to go above that. And I had started at 8. So that shows you that over 10 years of teaching, I had made it $8 more. But for somebody who's working in the tech space now, that's next to nothing. And it's really hard to support your family on that kind of salary too. Even being in France, there's social benefits and things like that, but you want to have a little bit more stability. So it also had a realization point of, wait a second, my husband's been the breadwinner up to this point. Now that this is going on in my life, I had just had my second daughter. So I had two kids at home. She was only 6 months old at the time. And it was one of those moments of, okay, I've got to do something. I have to take control over something. And one of my colleagues, who actually became a colleague in Salesforce, she followed me in, started a Slack challenge in our workspace with Trailhead. And we found it was a whole bunch of us getting into it. We found that the two of us had a very competitive edge. And
Right.
yeah, no, you wouldn't have guessed that at all, right? And yeah, started to go through Trailhead and upskilling and learning to be a Salesforce administrator. And that was my first foray into Salesforce. We were using Salesforce internally and actually thinking about leaving Salesforce. And we were a Red account and got in touch with AEs in secret at the time because we didn't want our organization to know we were doing this, and started to upskill and to plant ideas, and actually got Experience Cloud implemented after I had left. But I went through the beginning phases and different pieces like that before coming into Salesforce and where I am today.
Oh, very cunning. I didn't
Yes.
know that side of you. Oh, okay. Okay. Carry on.
Yeah. So I'll share my screen and just go through these pictures I was talking about,
Mhm.
because this is the one where we were just maybe a couple of months afterwards. We
Mhm.
had planned to go to the States to see my grandparents, who my grandma was relatively sick at the time too. So an important trip for us, and introducing Lucy to everybody, my second daughter who's in the picture. And this is us at Austin. So just that moment in time. And this was probably when I was starting Trailhead and starting to transition. So you can see like the ages of the kids and everything like that. And then when I was going through the pictures, I was using Google Photos and the search functionality. And I wanted to get a picture of like my kids reading alongside while I was studying. And it pulled up a bunch of pictures that I had forgotten about. So this was my oldest daughter, Alicia. And this is when what I was saying. I realized that I've been doing this for a while. After I had Alicia, I had some postpartum depression, things like that. And to get back on my feet and feel like myself again, I started to do a master's program. So I was doing a master's program in Anglophone literature, and Alicia, as a little girl, would come to the library with me and read all of my books. She'd pick out all of the research books and everything. She was only the only kid in the research library at the university. But yeah, she would go through and pretend to read all of Mama's books as I was coming through. You can see that Lucy was doing the same thing. I was finishing up my master's at this point and actually never finished my final thesis because I had to make a decision between Salesforce and becoming a university professor in Anglophone literature. At the time, everybody I talked to said you had to move to Belgium to find a job. I was like, well, I don't want to move to Belgium. I live in France. No offense to anybody in Belgium. I love some of my friends who live in Belgium, but at the time, that just wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then I kept doing this when my third was born. So talking about trends,
Yeah.
I would attend classes. I attended virtual what was it? TDX at the time because it was COVID time.
Mm-hmm.
And my third came down with a bacterial infection. So he actually came home for only a day, a grand total of 24 hours, decided that his sisters were a little bit too much for him, and went back into the hospital for a month to treat a whole series of bacterial infections. And I
Mm-hmm.
found this picture and I was like, oh, yeah, I was really doing like a lot of classes and things like that. You can see like the little monitor things on him and everything like that. And it makes you realize that sometimes that really is just a coping mechanism that you're using, that you're dealing with. And it may be good, it may be bad, I don't know. But yeah, it's sometimes that thing that you can have control over when you feel like you're in control of nothing else. You feel like you have control over what you're learning, what your brain's absorbing. And I figured if it can help anybody else out there who's maybe feeling the same way, just to find out what coping mechanisms people use intentionally or unintentionally. Yeah.
Mm. I I have a question, so I'm just going to kind of like pivot slightly from your topic. So you
Yeah.
moved countries,
Mhm.
to France, and you said something earlier on, which a few things. One is you said you live in the middle of nowhere in
Yeah.
France, um, and then you also mentioned just now, postpartum depression.
Yeah.
So, in terms of your social network, how do you have one like where you are?
I do. At the time, what was I was really struggling with was that my network was quite a few French friends, but also a lot of American expats. And what ended up happening was I would meet somebody, get along really nice, have that support network, and then they move back to the States. And I was like, well, I don't want to move back to the States. I like where I am. I'm planning on being here for a while. So it took a while for me, I think, to infiltrate the French network of friends and have those people I could really rely on, which I do definitely have now and a great support system. But I think that's why I was really scared to have my other two actually because I thought it would just repeat itself. And that didn't end up happening. And I think that was a big influence in it, just having that support system around you.
Mm. So, in terms of so I'm still on this particular topic.
Yeah.
You you so I'm trying to imagine in my head you live in a village.
At the time, it was the city. Yeah, it was the
Oh, okay.
medium-sized city.
So, but in
Yeah.
terms of like, so in tech, we know, everyone's virtual. You're over in France and I'm in the UK. But your social network, was it like-minded women? Were they in tech, or were they, in different places in their lives and stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, my support network and social network isn't very tech. Um, yeah, which, I don't know if that says something that I should dig into at some point, but yeah, my tech network is definitely in the Salesforce space, back in the US just a little bit, but my immediate support network in France is different industries, not necessarily the tech space. They like to joke that I'm like, Chandler and Friends, where nobody really knows what he does.
I love that analogy. It was just going back to your, your brief about what you wanted to talk about, and I'm
Mhm,
just, as you're talking, I'm imagining. So I also have three kids, and suddenly your perspective of life shifts because suddenly you got these wriggly human beings that you can't give back to. When things go wrong, there's no return policy. And to be um, to feel like you have in that, your husband who's the main breadwinner going through some scary times, and suddenly you think, oh, that could change that dynamic. Now I have to step up, not only that, but potentially care for my
mhm.
husband who's still recovering. I can imagine it'd be quite scary, you know the recovery, how you've described it. I could feel the scariness in here as well if that happened to my husband. How did you kind of like cope at that time? Did you already have your network then?
Yeah, so I had, definitely a better network. In when I moved with my 3rd, we changed villages, and this has been where I've had the most supportive network out there. So it wasn't quite the same as what I have right now, but a pretty good one. I think at that time, between that and even when Owen, my 3rd, was, in the hospital, it was some scary moments, very high fevers. They didn't know what they had like 3 different types of bacterial infections. They think he might have had meningitis, different things like that. And all of those times, it was just heads down. I don't think that I necessarily had the time even to think about being stressed out around things. It was just
Mhm.
survival mode. It was going into survival mode and saying, "Okay, I need to do bath time. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to make dinner. I need to sleep," and not necessarily having the time even to think about any of the what ifs. Yeah.
Mm. So, l- I'd like to kind of like just like peel back layers a little bit on just the postpartum depression. Tell me how you recognized it, and what did you do? Did it happen for your first for Alicia as well, or?
Just Alicia, really.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I don't think I realized when I was in it though. So that's the scary part about anybody who's been faced with any sort of depression is you don't necessarily recognize when you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to say that the world was gray. It was like a grayscale. It felt like there wasn't a lot of color in it, like just those types of thoughts that you had with you. And I would cry for nothing. I would like just very emotional at the time, things like that. And it wasn't until after I started to get out of that, which was a while to go through that. And I did manage to do it on my own without getting psychological help, but I probably would have gotten through it faster if somebody would have said like, "Hey, you should probably go talk to somebody about this." But not everybody realizes what you're going through either. So, yeah, it was a lack of realization. If I could go back to that time, I would have definitely sought out some sort of help to be able to get through that faster and maybe not even faster, but maybe in a better, more supported way.
Mm. So, do you? How do you feel in terms of relocating and then building your life and the resources? Was it easy to access resources that you need? Because I know, in France they're like really good on healthcare and stuff like that. But how about the mental health side? Were there any resources for you?
Yeah, so I think as an expat coming over, and I was in my 20s just after university, and I didn't know what to seek out. So I hadn't been to a doctor. This is really bad. I hadn't been to a doctor since when I moved to when I had my first. Like that entire period. I just never gotten sick enough that I needed to go see one. I hadn't done any checkups, like you're supposed to go and do your checkups, but I just didn't think about it or had other things that were always taking a priority, things like that. So even as far as like knowing where to go or what you can ask for, it wasn't something that I had researched enough. The resources were definitely there. It was just a lack of that connection of me saying,
Mm,
actually, I have these available to me. I should use them.
mm, mm. Okay, right.
Because France is definitely good about that. And yeah, the healthcare system coming from the US is not something to be knocked.
Oh, I can imagine, right?
Thank you.
How is your husband now?
He is good when he's not deciding to have like BMX accidents, because I know that you knew about that one day. So when he's not, yeah, doing BMX over huge hills and falling off his bike, yeah, everything's good. Actually, his cardiologist, for example, says that his heart's in a better place now, because when you go through that, and especially our experience going through that, we were both a little bit more overweight at the time. I had just had Lucy. We went into the cardiologist and he was so strict. He was like, "Oh, you have to stop eating at McDonald's every day," and just all of these things that made you feel really bad. And then we both left and we were so shaken at that point. We looked at each other and said, "Wait a second, we don't eat at McDonald's every day. This is not us. We just need to watch what we eat." We started to measure food quantities and things like that and really make some lifestyle changes around not having that glass of wine in the evening, things like that, that really do help. So now he's at a point where he's actually better off than he was at the time. So it's all of those silver linings, right? Like things happen for a reason. And yeah, we're in a better place now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just looking at what's out on Trailhead, there's just so many things. Do you feel that if that using learning as a coping tool right now would still be a valid thing for people to do, given that the time when you did it, you didn't touch on this, but I'm wondering if that was in your thoughts at that time. um Salesforce was a great place to work, wasn't it? There was jobs abundance, and things was exciting and things, but the market has shifted slightly now.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts about people jumping in, feet first into going on trailhead and stuff?
Yeah, so it still depends on what you're looking for and what you want. I think it's a learning is such something that's so personal to each and every person. There's different learning styles, there's different motivations even. So I know that my personality type is the learner type. Like that's what just resonates and syncs with me. So if learning something that stresses somebody out, because I have friends, family who don't find learning as easy and it is something that inspires stress, then that's not going to be your coping mechanism. You're going to go with whatever works for you. And then just even more in general, around Trailhead, it has gotten so big, so many products. So you have to know where to go. And then you have to know why you're learning in the first place. Is it with the goal of definitely transitioning like I did at that one point, or actually with the master's program, it wasn't necessarily to get a job at the end. It was because I really like to read. I'm a huge bookworm. I've always been interested in it. And university in France is not very expensive. So it was something that I could do in my free time and see what this turns into. It was a little bit more of a, let's try this out, let's see where it goes, but not necessarily to transition. So I think that comes into it too. There's so much more than just learning to transition. It's learning the tech, also what soft skills are you able to transition with, and then building out your network, because the network is often what ends up getting you in that first job role in the first place. And I think the network, with the way tech has been moving, has become even more important right now because there are less jobs. There's less availability out there. So that's going to be really important, is what's your appetite for networking? Who do you already know?
Mm.
Who are you going to know? Are you going to go to group meetups? Like things like that are so much more important.
Is it easy for you to do group meetups from where you are?
Um, COVID made a lot of things virtual. So at that point in time, I was doing a lot of them.
Hmm.
I think that there's just so much out there now that it's hard to be everywhere and do everything. So I've definitely slowed down a bit on the meetup side because 3 kids at home at ages where yeah, my oldest is going into middle school next year for the first year. So it's definitely going to be different next year. So I'm just trying to take advantage of where they are right now and do a
Yeah.
little bit less in the evenings than I did at one point and really try to prioritize. So I do make a point of attending a few virtuals all the time and then trying to attend some in persons as well, because that's just a different network and a different atmosphere.
Yeah, I think what you say is so true. Networking is important, but I feel
Mhm.
for based on a lot of messages I'm getting is that it is so much tougher now to stand out from the crowd.
Mhm.
There's so many certifications, so many new things to learn, and along with the AI revolution, I'd call it, where organizations aren't hiring the
Mhm.
junior ones,
Yeah.
and I can't remember where I heard this, where I think it was Shopify and is it Amazon that said, they wouldn't open a new headcount unless the team has showed why they can't do what they want doing with AI.
Yeah.
That
And
is,
that is such a hard one because it's a lot of times, especially in even in Salesforce, we're saying like the human behind the AI is there to do drafts and things like that. But as it's developing more and more, that's where it's going. So it's sad to hear those stories from big organizations.
yeah, I know, which makes it hard, I think, for any new talent to pivot into the industry.
Yeah.
Mm. With that, I was thinking, thank you so much, Vicky, for sharing your story. I love the fact that you use learning and Trailhead to cope with some of the a couple of things. I guess you use it to cope, and
Mhm.
secondly, to also forge a new career for yourself. Isn't this so much more fun than teaching English at
Yeah.
$15 an hour?
Oh, I don't know. I had some great stories from teaching English. I taught English to a lot of students in South America. And I would see some repeat learners coming in, and it was great to hear their stories about, oh, I got a visa, I got a job because of having English on their side. So, yeah, you get some of those moments in the tech space too, and especially doing what I do. I teach still. So, you get some of those aha moments and this helped to change my life type moments.
Mhm.
But I also got those same moments teaching English. So, it was definitely a useful experience and some good years to look back on. Say the salary level's still a bit low for what you put into it, but
Uh, as a friend of mine said, if it's not a good time, it's a good story, right?
yes.
And that's what kind of like pushed you into where you are now. Because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have met or
Yeah, exactly. Like
yeah.
so many people, I can even see people in the comments that are
Yes, I know. Thank you, Sophia and Richard, for lovely comments there and a note of support. Yes, I'm two-thirds the way. Yes, I can see the end now, so it doesn't feel as daunting to finish this
Yeah,
challenge.
you
Um,
are so impressive, Pay.
I don't know if I knew how hard it was, maybe I wouldn't have started. It's like one of those things.
It may not be a recurring thing next year, but it's really
I
impactful for this year.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe I won't be doing this again next year. So, um, before I let you go, I'm just going to pop this onto the screen. So, for those of you who have joined us, please can you donate to my lovely branch? I have so much love for it. That is my support network. When I'm going through anything, they're my people. They're the ones who genuinely want to know how I am, without judgment, and they create that space. So I hope that, if you followed on, you will have heard Vicky's story and how she's coped, and how, we also talked about your social and your support network and how you build it. And, having to infiltrate the French, what a word, um, for your French network. So, thank you so much, Vicky, and thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, and you're so close to your target. I saw there are only 800 pounds to go
Oh,
as
yes,
of right
please.
now, as of the recording. So we're almost
Yes.
there. Keep going, guys.
I just need one person to donate 800 pounds. That's it. Just
There we go.
just
We're done.
one, and then I don't have to finish the rest of the talk. No, no, no. We do have some really good ones coming up, so I hope everyone is able to join in. Thanks so much, Vicky.
Bye, everybody.
See you soon. Bye.